Talk to us a little bit about the central themes in your work.
There are some themes that that occur quite regularly. Maybe not regularly, but they reoccur. These are the subjects of politics, family, modernity, like planes, airplanes, that's all. And the history is also a big issue. So these are the main themes. And of course, maybe that's obvious that the family is the most often theme I explore.
What are you trying to find there, or what are you exploring there?
This is not about finding. I'm not. This is not something because the way I work, I usually take snapshots on my mobile, and then I have a folder in my computer where I put the images that I find quite inspiring, and they could be a base for the painting, and I put these images over there. And only then, sometimes I work with the image. Sometimes I just take it only, you know, after a month, after a year, that's been stored in this folder. But but this is not the way of finding. I don't think I find anything. This is, I mean, I can't assume what is the result, what is the outcome. So very often I let the painting being painted by itself. And only then I think, okay, maybe that's what I was looking for. But it's well, the question is rather about when the painting is done, when the painting is completed. This is the feeling I can't put in the words. I have this feeling, and that's it.
Is that a similar feeling that makes you decide what to paint? Like which images you want to paint?
Yes, but it's on different level. I mean, what to paint is always it's something ambiguous in the source material, in the snapshot. It's something that opens the subject, that can bring more questions rather than the answers. And no, these are two different things. I like the paintings that are somehow loaded, but not loaded in terms of the action, but something that it's there. But that's something else. Well, maybe that's the atmosphere that has either the painting or the source material. That's a certain atmosphere. I don't see the painting as an execution of a project. It's not like that.
So the painting is more that you try and capture something that fascinates you in the photograph.
Yes, more or less. But this is something. Yes, I mean I can maybe if I can explain it, if I can just put the example, maybe with this one. That's the image I'm quite familiar with, because there are the meadows in Poland, and sometimes I can see the storks searching for frogs, and there is something very sentimental, very Polish, but on the other hand, this white and black on the green background. So there's all these put together, and of course the history what is behind, how the stork been absorbed by the Polish history or culture. When it's always mixed up, it gives this reason to work with this image that on one hand can be very sentimental, can be very kitschy even, and this is another challenge. That's something that can be kitschy, just to approach the subject on the first level very kitschy, can be very, it's a challenge for me. That's what I like sometimes. Like with a stork, like with a sunset, these are These are the images no one can resist.
But this one isn't kitschy anymore, maybe because it doesn't have the...
It is not kitschy anymore. Yes, because you can leave some space on the painting to be filled by the viewer. It's more abstract. I think this is, yeah. So this is sort of a game.
Can you maybe talk a little bit about the technique you use? So a painting, there is very detailed parts, but then there is very sort of fast brushstrokes. There is the way I work with. When I have a photograph, a source material, I print it out. I make a grid, and due to the grid, I make a drawing with a pencil on the canvas, and then I fill it with the colors. Sometimes really well diluted with a turpentine. It's always oil on oil. It's always oil on canvas. And I use this different ways. I don't want to limit, but it is always oil on canvas. Different colors has its own characteristics. For instance, the green, this green, has this great. It can work with these brush strokes. Sometimes I can see, because some of the paintings in this room are a bit older, like 10 or 15 even, like 12 years older. They are painted the way I even forgot. So these are different. For me, it's also like a little bit travel in time, because there are techniques. But I also, it's not always a brush. That is important, because, for instance, there's the one painting that I painted with my fingers. That's the Congress building. The black is painted with the fingers. I use also cloth. Yeah. For me, it's also, maybe because we talked about kitsch before, the contrast that then makes it not kitschy. So the sky is very sort of detailed, and then, you know, it's like, or in this, I think it's very apparent that it's like it draws your attention to your eye to.
Yes, but it's never. But I don't. That's what I said about. That's what I said about let the painting being paint. That's what I follow rather. I can't plan that it's gonna be that's how I work. I mean, because I'm quite experienced with the nature of the colors. I know how to, or at least I try to. Take advantage of certain of the nature of certain colors.
Like you talked about the recurring themes before, and the way these paintings are laid out now. So this is maybe a slightly more political combination of works, and over there as more private paintings. Do they both then entail those similar themes? Are the paintings of private situations also political for you?
Yes, of course. I think it's. I mean, once the reality appears on the screen of your computer, or it becomes also private, and vice versa. So it's everything is mixed up. So what is political, what is private becomes public. What's public becomes private. So that's why people talk about politics as it would be an affair in a family, because they follow the I don't know, like they watch it as a shows and so on. But I don't want to simplify it. But for me as a painter, everything can be painted. That's what I'm trying to say. That I don't want to be
really how to say, okay, just to ignore the importance of certain facts. But for the painter, everything can be paint.
Are you familiar with the collection of the Fondation Beyeler?
Yeah.
Are there any artists that inspire you or that you see yourself in a contingency of?
Well, of course. I mean, this is not for me. Gerhard Richter is a very important person, very important artist for me. But also when I walked in, I'm also very surprised always by. Not always, but I'm very often surprised by the works of Max Ernst, who's been so open for experiments. That's when I saw this painting of him. I didn't know that. I mean, I thought, okay, that must be Max Ernst, and that's him. Yeah. So these are the. I like this surrealist, and I also like the African collection. Yeah, these are. I think that's. I think I'm happy to be one of the artists.
And how do you see yourself in the context of this collection?
If I see myself?
Yeah, or how do you see yourself in the context of this collection?
Of course, it's a huge privilege, but I also think that's also the selection of the works, even though they're quite, in terms of my practice, they're quite spread. Like, on the other hand, they're quite consistent. So when I see the Warhol's room or Ellsworth Kelly room, I can see that there's a certain consistency in work of mine, even though the works sometimes are quite distant one from each other. I feel, because also the way Wolfgang Tillmans works, I also see somehow it's very close to my approach to reality. That's also why I feel it's not only generation closeness, but also the perceiving the reality is very close to my way of perception. Yeah?
Funny that you say that, because I thought that just before when you talked about how you decide what to pay, kind of that you have images that you put them aside and you go back to them and what you try and capture in them. He always says for him it's important the how something is, not how it's made, but how it is portrayed, what it has in it.
Okay, yeah, but it's different. Of course, it's different with a photographer. But of course, but it is. For me, it's important. But I think in his case, I think it's important for me as a viewer. It's very and the artist is very important how it's made, because his work is pretty much also about how it's made, because you can see it's not only the flat. Okay, it's a flat, but the photograph is flat. But on the other hand, the way it's been processed, it is very important for me. And that's why I think it's important. Okay.
Yeah. In terms, how it is, how something
staged or
but not staged, but like, okay, there is a meadow and a stalk on it. So, but why does it touch you in a way? And that kind of how is it portrayed? How is it something that you can't describe necessarily? If I say it's a painting with a meadow and a stalk, it doesn't say that much about it, but.
Yes, that's right, and this is why sometimes you can't use the words. And of course, what always strikes me to certain images. Maybe there's a sort of mystery. I know it can be a pompous word, but I think it is quite. But it's quite that.
If you had to introduce your work to someone who has never seen your work, how would you describe it, or how would you describe your approach to the work, to art? And
what I like about painting and about my practice, and if I would like to describe it anyhow, it should be there are no rules, and this is actually the only rule that I believe in freedom and in the risk in the work, that you can just make mistakes. I don't want to get bored with myself. I don't want to be a painter of this or that. I don't want to be a painter of, I mean, not a painter even. I mean, a painter I used to escape from this term for such a long time after studying, because I didn't like very much my school, because it's been so conservative and so on. So I wanted to, yeah, I mean, just to be an open artist for what's going on. And what I like about the painting, and what is part, I believe, of my practice, is a sort of using it as with awareness of this obsolete technique, sort of obsolete, but on the other hand, very natural and belonging even to a human nature as a way of communication. And I think that this also has its again, and over again, its role in this world awashed with images. That is also handmade. That's what I like about painting.
What do you like about the risk-taking? Do you think it's necessary?
Oh, yes, definitely. Not just to. I mean, being lost in this, I would say, areas of art is great. I mean, there's no big consequences, so it's good to take risk and to find something new that is not to follow the beaten path. That's what I think. Maybe it's different than in life, because nobody hurts. Art, nobody hurts when you make mistakes.
And sometimes in the mistakes you find new.
Yeah, that's also part of my work. How I find new way of language. Let's say. New language.
So, and how do you like the arrangement of this room now? Do you see your paintings differently now that they're being curated in this way?
I like it a lot. Because actually right now that's the first time I entered the room. But I got already a message in the phone call that it looks great, and I agree.